Let me ask you this, okay? Have you ever walked down the street with headphones in, imagining that you're in the final scene of a film where everything just clicks? Or maybe you've curated an entire imaginary life. We all like to daydream, right? Me too. I do too. And that sometimes is main character syndrome. And I know it sounds like a joke. It does sound like a joke and like a dorky meme type of thing. But trust me, it's not a joke and it's not a meme. It is most definitely real. And we're gonna get deep into it. So grab a drink, sit back, and let's get real here. Oh, that rhymed. So let's define the vibe. Main character syndrome isn't in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, so it's not an official disorder, but it is a cultural phenomenon. And I think that if some new disorders were added into the manual, I think that this would maybe make the cut. It's known enough that most of us recognize it instantly, at least people who are younger. No shaming to old people, but you get it. It's like this tendency to see yourself and your life as if you're in a movie. Okay? And let me get clear here first. There's no issue with romanticizing your everyday life to some extent. But that's the key thing. To some extent. It can be too much, too fast. Anyway, people make it feel like every minor inconvenience becomes a plot twist, you know, and every heartbreak becomes character development, and every random encounter with an animal becomes a cinematic metaphor for emotional rebirth. So that's the vibe there. And listen, sometimes it is incredible and makes everything better, and it makes boring things feel magical. But sometimes it gets delusional really quick. So let's talk about both. So, where did it originally come from? Well, main character syndrome is a new name, a new title for an old human instinct, which is the need to feel important. A shocker. But the cultural version that we know today is born out of three prominent factors. First, social media, where we literally curate our lives for content. We're not just living it, we're documenting it and posting it and getting praised or hated for it. And I'm not shaming that entirely. Documenting your life is beautiful, especially if you're a nostalgic person, because that's just the thing. Yeah, but if you do it for the sole reason of content and likes, then no, not that good. Second, the death of traditional community. Less close ties, less shared meaning, less community, just in general. So people look inward and create meaning through self-centered narrative. And third, media influence. We've been raised on protagonists, Disney, teen dramas, Pinterest, cinema, music, and everyone for sure wants to be Matilda rather than the kid reading in class. You want to be the main character, the protagonist. We're trained for that. We're trained from birth to believe that we're special. And we are. We are special. Definitely everyone is special, but maybe we're not that special. Like that special. Which hurts to hear. Everyone wants to be special. I'm sorry, but it also frees us in some ways, knowing that we're not that original. Here's when the psychology comes in. There's a concept called narrative identity, coined by psychologist Dan McAdams. It means that we build our identities like stories. We're not just a bunch of traits and moods, but we're characters with arcs and lore. We edit and alter memories to fit the narrative that we've made for ourselves in our minds. We explain bad things as turning points and dramatic plot points. We give ourselves aesthetic and meaning because chaos and not having control is so deeply terrifying. Like, it is really, really frightening not having control. And from first-hand experience, I mean, this isn't entirely bad. Don't think that it is bad, because it helps us make sense of certain trauma sometimes. It helps us grow in some ways too, but it can become toxic real quick when it gets to a point where we romanticize pain instead of healing from it, or when we ignore others' stories and their lives and opinions of your life. And being the main character is comforting and fun and amazing and incredible and whimsical. And it's an act of emotional survival. But once it crosses the line where it becomes emotional isolation, no, that's where we cross the line. Social media is the ultimate film set. Main character syndrome thrives there on TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube. The aesthetic main character girls blow up for walking through airports or journaling in slow motion while listening to mellow music. The film that you're directing of yourself, as if you're in a Sofia Coppola film, is moody, it's digestible, and it's extremely hot. Sure, but it also creates a performative loop. You start doing things for the story, for the image, for the plot, and suddenly you're not living but you're acting in some ways for free. Often with burnout and mental instability, which is stupid. It's stupid, you at least can get paid for it when you're in an actual film. Now, the dark side of this aesthetic. What I've been saying were only the dark sides, I feel like. Let's roll with it. Main character syndrome can go sideways real fast. And I mean real fast. And I actually have a video about that is kind of similar to this topic, which is why we romanticize sadness. So check it out if you want to. We often dismiss other people's experiences, making us not involved and unavailable to even our close ones, which is sad. Next, over-romanticizing mental illness and trauma. That's a big thing lately. This could be a topic of itself, and maybe it someday will. Maybe I will bring it out. But let's continue. This topic is becoming so popular to romanticize your problems, making them even desirable at times, which is crazy. And yes, I'm looking at the pro eating disorder community. Okay, that's like the main. It also leads to toxic idealization of loneliness and sometimes creates the pressure to constantly perform emotions even when you're not feeling them. As if you're in a TV, you know? You don't have to have extreme reactions to normal stuff. And this all can spiral into depersonalization or a weird superiority complex or just intense burnout and breakdown. It sounds like everyone is then overly confident and egoistic. No. Let's clear this up. Not everyone with main character syndrome is a narcissist. Narcissistic personality disorder is a whole diagnosis, so look that up if you want to. But main character syndrome is more like a cultural posture, you know? A mood that you channel. But it can, and often does, feed narcissistic behaviors, such as thinking that others exist only to support your story and your plot, which is not true. Or ignoring how your actions affect people. Or ignoring other people's feelings because they're irrelevant to your story, or so you think. The baseline: empathy, listening, communication, letting someone else be the star sometimes. A film has side characters or more main characters as well, so let someone else share the spotlight and the screen, please. But you may still kind of need the main character syndrome, which is ironic and sounds weird, but let me elaborate, okay? Main character syndrome isn't inevitably bad. Sometimes it's a way to survive, okay? To romanticize the mundane, to feel hope when life is dull. It gives lonely people a way to feel purpose sometimes. It gives anxious people a sense of order sometimes. It's not a flaw, definitely not. And it is a response to chaos. And it maybe is a coping mechanism for some people. And let's be honest, some of the best art, the best film, the best outfits come from people leading into their narrative identity. It's okay to be dramatic. It's okay to feel things genuinely and genuinely deeply. Just don't let the aesthetic of it become a cage. You know, we don't want that. So, where does this leave us? Well, main character syndrome is a mirror. It reflects what we crave: attention, meaning, connection, identity. It can be funny, it can be empowering, harmful, beautiful, and tragic. All at once. You can still pretend that you're in a movie when you feel like it. But now, maybe, you know, a little bit of why you do it and to what extent you should practice it. Anyways, that's all from me today. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this video, because I certainly did. And if you like this chat, check out more of my videos on my channel, my Instagram or anything. So I'll see you soon. Bye!